to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Welcome. If you're here tonight, you have a project in one of the three historic districts of Radnor Township. It's the South Wayne, North Wayne, or Luella Court. You're doing a project that has an effect of increasing footprint, mass, volume, or some kind of a structural addition or change that would change a scale or some kind of a view shed of some sort. We have 5 projects tonight on the agenda. I'd like to call the first one. It's HARB 2013-15, 113 Runnymede Avenue. Construct screen porch at rear of house. Porch finish details similar to existing porch at front and sides of house. Is anyone to present tonight? Nick, why don't you come up and introduce yourself and speak with a microphone. The table's there for any drawings you'd like to show or pictures.
Okay, I'm Nick Walker from Cottage Industries, and first time I've done it, so I don't really know what you're looking for.
All right, do you have what you submitted in the packet?
Yeah.
If you could lay that out on the table and walk us through, I guess, start with a site plan and describe what you're doing and materials, and we'll ask questions. So, you want a handheld? Would that help?
That's all right, I can do it right here.
Okay.
The house on Runnymede, it's next to the parking lot, and one in from the apartment building.
Yeah. See? Magic.
Can they see that? Okay, that's good. This area on here, over here, is the parking lot, and it starts residential homes on that side. And we're looking to put a screen porch in the back right here. The stairs that are laid out right there are a set of pressure-treated steps that we're removing. What we're aiming to do is make the screen porch look exactly like the front porch in terms of its finishes, which is there. So that's the front porch of the house, and essentially, really, it's the posts and the soffits, fascias, overhangs that we're trying to make similar to that. Let's see. Give you a rear elevation of the porch. So that is a rear elevation of the porch. And the piece right here is the side of the wraparound front porch. So the front porch wraps around in a U and comes around on that side. And the elements we were planning on using, the posts and the fascias and soffits, were going to be similar to the front. And then the hip roof was an evolution of what was the best way to handle. This piece right here is an existing mudroom addition that was put on sometime, I would guess, in the 50s or 60s, and it has a hip roof on it. And the main roof up in here is also a hip roof. So we decided the nicest looking roof would be a hip.
Can you put this picture kind of next to it to kind of compare the existing?
So that's That's the existing rear elevation. There. This is the set of pressure-treated steps that goes up, that are going to go. And then, and the porch would go in this vicinity, right, in that area right there. And that's the existing.
This is completely on the rear of the building, right?
What do you say?
Completely on the rear of the building?
Completely on the rear of the building.
Okay.
It doesn't seem like you'd be able to see this from the street.
No.
You can't.
Maybe from the fence, looking over it from the parking lot, but that's about it.
Yeah, no, you can't see it from the street. The neighbors on this side
Yeah.
would be able to see it from their backyard.
All right.
Can I ask you a question about, on the proposed drawing, it appears that the second-story window above the new hip roof porch that's in the photograph, it almost looks like you've taken the Victorian scaled multi-panes around single out of the first story and put it, does that make sense? The second-story window almost has that same detailing.
Yeah, well, all the windows, well, it's Wayne, so all the windows in the house are different. But the majority of the windows in the house, and I don't know if you can see it in the photograph, have this, majority of the windows on the second floor have that
That yes.
multi-paned over one.
And does it look like the second-story proposed drawing is going to take that first-story window and put it up there, or?
No, it's the same, the second-story window is the same window.
Oh, I just couldn't see it. I see what you're
Yeah,
saying.
you just can't see it because of the way
I
it is.
see, I
It's in
see.
there.
Got
yeah.
it, thanks.
We were actually thinking of trying to use that
Yeah,
window
that's what I
somewhere,
was thought-
but.
Thinking you were doing that, which was nice.
Yeah.
So it looks like you're on stone piers. I see that in one view, but I don't see it in the other views. Is that? Can I see that?
We weren't doing this, no, we
No,
were
you're
not
not
going
going
to
on
do
stone?
stone piers. They
Oh,
do
that
not.
was the other porch.
That's the other porch.
Okay.
What we were going to do is hide the piers, wrap them in this lattice, if you will, which isn't really lattice, it's more of a wood frame structure below. We were just going to wrap the corners of it because they basically didn't want to pay for stone on the corners.
All right, I think it's consistent with the, the scale of the house in terms of, there's a lot going on, it's been additions over the years, and I think this sort of helps to put a base on this house in the back, anyhow.
Yeah.
You can't see it from the street. It's small in scale. And I guess the only comment I would have is that if there's some way to connect the two hip roofs together, and I think your window sill might be a problem. Is that kind of why you didn't do that?
I tried to do that. The problem is that the porch is about 4 feet beyond the mudroom. The mudroom's quite small, so it's further toward into the
It's
backyard.
set back quite a bit.
And so I tried to make those roofs come together, but they just, I mean, I'd like it a lot better that way. I'd like it to come as one clean roof and come across, but I don't know whether I can do it.
Well, I think you could come over on the mudroom, and then it would kick out and come out and around, and they would,
That's what I wanted to I mean, well, the mudroom peak is a little bit tall for that window, that second-story window, which.
Okay, so that's the problem.
Which is one of the problems.
Okay.
But I was thinking maybe if I could chop the top of that peak off a little bit and then overframe that roof, but every time we drew it, it wouldn't come together. I'd do it.
well, that would be my only comment, is that if there's some way to do that, and maybe you make that roof line smaller so it joins into the,
Yeah, I'm actually hoping
Lower.
that Russ my project manager, can make that happen.
Okay.
I'm sort of, it was one of those things where
it's not part of what we would be saying, do this or else. It's just a
Yeah.
suggestion.
It would be a lot prettier, yes.
Yeah, so if you can do that, we'd love to see that.
Do you think they stuccoed over like siding
Yeah.
underneath? Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same, the house that Cornell extended up the street on the corner?
Uh-huh.
It's the same house. And they did this dash pebble stucco on the outside of it, and it's all underneath with siding. And it's, the owner actually loves it. not a big fan, but it, you know, I'd much rather have re-sided it, but
No further comment.
Anything
we
else?
actually, we're going to have a couple of places where I have to imitate the dashed pebble stuff and to infill, so, anyway.
And I guess just from a presentation standpoint, if next time you go around, if we can get in front of the house, just so you get the picture of what the house
Yes.
is.
Okay.
And then you have the work, you
Yeah.
know, but it's always good to see what the street, what the
street
street
view
is
is.
looking
Good
at,
point.
so.
Okay.
That's it, that's all I have to say. Anybody else?
Nope.
Make a motion?
Motion to approve a COA?
That's second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 5-0. You know the process?
What is that?
Do you know the process from here? Okay. We're an advisory board, and as such, our recommendations go to the Board of Commissioners. Their meeting's the 26th. We're not on that one? Okay. The next Board of Commissioners meeting, it'll be on their agenda, and they will vote to agree with us, vote to agree with conditions, or vote to do something else. I doubt they will do anything other than agree with us, but technically, you don't have the approval until the Board of Commissioners does that.
Okay. Do you know when the meeting is?
Oh, is it on there?
Okay, good. And then once
Okay,
they,
September 4th.
and then they notify us?
That's a hard meeting. Yeah, they would notify you. We'll find out what it is, but
Okay.
that's the process. So
Board of-
it's not like you can put in a building permit tomorrow because you have to have that
Right.
done, so.
Okay.
But thank you very much.
Good, thank you.
Did you enjoy your experience?
Yes, indeed.
Come again.
If you do it in Lower Merion, it's like 7 people and they're way higher up.
We've got adjustable chairs.
Change that.
If it
Thank
was
you,
good
Nick.
for you, it was good for us.
All right. Put this one away. All right, next on the agenda is HARB 2013-16, 212 Midland Avenue. 2.5-story addition to a non-contributing resource in South Wayne National Register Historic District. The addition continues in the same material palette as the previous addition to the original 1950s one-story dwelling. Can you introduce yourself and the project? And use the microphone, please. Thank you.
I'm Jim Garrison. I'm the architect for the owners, Bill and Becky Wood, at 212 Midland. Probably the best place to start with this is with the views of the existing house. And in the National Register nomination, the north side, the south side of the 200 block of Midland Avenue is actually singled out as an entire stretch of non-contributing structures. And this is one of the post-war houses that was infilled in that block, beginning as a one-story ranch house and then having a second story added to it. The owners have asked me to expand it to the rear with a 2.5-story L addition in the same materials, with a lower roof line, deferring to the front of the house, and a small one-story infill also on the rear side. The building does fit completely within the zoning envelope, and being a non-contributing structure and being largely invisible from the street, I don't think it poses any particular issues to the integrity of the historic district. Can answer any questions you have.
The one question I have, and I think I'm going along with the lining of your thinking, is this the plan that relocates the front door to the
The
side?
front door does move around to the side of the house, and that door is replaced with a window.
But the recessed configuration remains intact.
All stays the
so-
same, all the stone that's there.
Right, so you don't really, it's not like you're punching out a new anything.
Yeah, the front of the house does not gain any new large openings,
Right.
yes. Oh, and the front of the roof is picking up 2 dormers, so it's now a blank roof. We'll actually have 2 dormers to help
Which is fitting.
light a slight expansion of the attic space there.
I see.
I mean, this is kind of a typical footprint for an addition. When you have a gabled house parallel to the street, you normally see a gable running perpendicular. The difference is this turns back into a gable going parallel to the street. If you look at the roof plan, it kind of helps a little bit to
It
understand.
did help to
Okay.
control the massing on the side elevation of the house, to not just run, an L straight back. It gives the owners a little bit more extra attic space up above, and I think overall sort of reduces the mass of the house.
I don't know that I agree with that. I think what you're getting is 3 sides that are 2.5 stories tall instead of 1 side, which would be the rear, if you kept that gable going. Did you guys look at different roof lines, or is this kind of was the,
This
From the
was the
get-go.
one that gave the best balance between space needs on the upper floor where the owner has a home office, and controlling the shape of the house, roof runoff and such. And, really not overwhelming the front, which is, a fairly large mass on top of, the original existing building that was there.
So it's losing the existing garage, but becoming a more in-depth, the depth of the building's growing, but the width
The
is...
small side garage that was part of the original house has been turned sideways, so the doors are not visible from the street. And so garages having large footprints, the space above becomes a challenge to roof in a
Right.
way that doesn't overwhelm the rest of the building.
yeah, so they took it in under the first edition.
Mhm.
I think giving, the building a variety of shapes on the side, as well as, the oblique view, really does help, control the volume.
I mean, as a non-contributing resource in that area, I don't think we have as tough a stringent review on these kinds of things. This is in the rear of the house. It's probably another third of the house added to the original footprint. If you can't come off of that roof line that you have here, can you at least take the shed dormer and pull it back off of the main roof so that you get a little show there, like the original one is?
Are you saying the existing shed dormer or the shed
The new-
on,
the new.
over the garage addition?
Yeah, the new shed. Could you pull that back and, so it's not such a tall wall?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then that would be in same keeping with the other
I see
shed
what you're
dormer.
saying. I
Where are
see.
you talking?
It would be right here.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay, oh, yeah.
Are you kind of saying
Would you
this?
have any objection to
Cut this chunk out?
2 regular dormers?
So it's like that. It's so stepped
I mean,
almost.
2 instead of the big one?
Yeah, instead of a shed
That
dormer?
would break it up.
Is that, I mean, would you still do
It
a,
helps light that back end of that space. And it would keep the eave line down, I think, where you want it.
I think it's a good compromise. Yeah. Because otherwise you have a space there with absolutely no light. Look at the interior floor plans, and then you got a wasted space there with no light whatsoever.
I'm not saying eliminate it.
Yeah.
Just pull that wall back.
Oh, just move the shed wall back so that,
Oh,
so that we have
so
a
that you actually have
continuous.
some of the roof
Oh, we
line
could-
of
Like
it.
yeah, that,
existing.
That roof line comes, you know,
Oh,
like the
oh,
original.
so you don't have a sheer wall.
Yeah, yeah,
Totally with
exactly.
you.
Right,
Yep,
right,
okay.
right.
I think that
Gotcha.
works fine.
Gotcha.
Perfect. Yep.
Gotcha.
And that's, you know, I don't know, 2 or 3 feet, whatever, you know,
Yeah,
whatever works.
No, we'll match the reveal that's on the main house.
Yeah.
Okay, that can be done.
Just for everybody's, this is just a suggestion. This is not what we're voting on tonight. We have plans in front of us. It's been presented, and we need to vote on them. Okay?
You are correct. I start putting suggestions out before we actually vote, so it's my fault again. All right, any other comments from anybody? You're matching materials?
Yes.
It's all I think is, I mean, that's what I saw, so.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that because.
Can you speak up a little louder, please?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that because it's a non-contributing building to the district, while we're still concerned with massing and that sort of thing, we're not as strict with some of the details as we would be ordinarily if it were contributing.
Yeah, I just want to make, 219, which is about, across the street, about one down, has a similar size L addition, and that's an old Victorian contributing house. It has about the same scale for that house as this house has for this. And then when you look between this house and the neighbor next to it, you clearly see this really large house up on the hill, which has been there for quite a
Yeah,
long
the
time.
big Trumbauer
which
house
is
up there,
huge, just
yeah.
a really big mass. So if you're talking scale and all, this is one of those few cases where everything kind of falls into place. Everywhere you look, you're seeing really big mass. You know, in fact, if you just had a little bungalow there, it would be totally out of scale for the situation.
I'm just sculpting a little bit, that's all.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's kind of all I was after,
Yeah.
so,
That's what it's all about.
yeah. All right, anybody have any other questions, thoughts,
No.
comments?
No.
Make a motion?
Motion to recommend approval of a COA?
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
5 to none,
Thank you.
okay. And you overheard the process, you know the process? Okay, thank you very much. Moving right along. Okay, next on the agenda is HARP 2013-17, 29 Luella Court. Rebuild of existing house in which the south wall is failing for approximately 40% of the existing foundation.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, may I interrupt here? Last 2 applicants, you've made recommendations that there be changes made off the prints. Both have kind of suggested that they would look into that, which makes our job extremely hard. The proposal is to agree or not agree with the set of prints there. If by voting yes to the set of prints that are shown to all the neighbors and are officially on record, and they come in with a different set of prints, the Community Development Department has an issue with that. I don't know at what point I'm supposed to approve. So technically, what we approved and what is seen on screen tonight is the approval. If they suggest and come back with 2 dormers, I'm going to reject that set of prints because that was not the set of prints that were approved. So be cautious, please, in how we word what we want to get done or the recommended changes after. I can't do both as part of public record. Thank you.
If we get into this all the time, but if we approve with that as a condition, you still have a problem with that? Because there's no paperwork involved, right? Well,
This-
how do we do that? Tell me how we do it then.
Well, here's the deal, and this is, we go over this a number of times. The set of prints that are done up were done professionally by an architect or an engineer. That is the design of the home as the customer and everyone wants it. If there's a true issue, and it kind of works into that, then we can make some minor tweaks. But that set of prints that were just approved to the general public tonight on TV, and as part of my record now, shows that single dormer in the back. If somebody makes a change, we actually have made people come back to Harb because there is a change in the accepted set of prints, whether it be from a recommendation or not. And we always caution the board to please be aware that as they make suggestions, that it's, again, the design's coming through as something that is there. I know as chairman, you have a couple of projects of your own. If they start changing those, how do we work around that? I guess what I'm asking or saying is that you're kind of asked to look at what they bring in front of you. We can make some minor tweaks if we want to do something, but to start changing roof lines and dormers and windows and then approve that set of prints, there's some issues. I don't know what I'm supposed to enforce except what was proposed tonight.
Well, I know it's on record that we went through this suggestion. If they come back with a building permit set that uses our suggestion, can you tell them that they need to have us look at it as an old business item?
Can they get started then, sir? If the board approves that, if the board approves a COA tonight, they get started, you can't review another set. If they do, it's a change, and we've actually made some people come back. Minor changes we can live with, but in the proposed end of it, I think the board needs to look at, the people want this as what they want. They've paid a design professional to draw that. Everything's within that range. So although you may offer some suggestions, I think once they approve, then the applicant has to know that what was approved tonight on camera and as part of our record is what they're building. Within some minor tweaks. We've been to a tapered column to a square column or something. That to me is minor, but we can't start doing dormers and changing roof lines and things, and then I get a different set of prints to review than what was approved by public and what's going to be approved by the Board of Commissioners.
Yeah, there's a lot of judgment involved, mostly by your staff, and I think you're right. I think if it's certainly putting another dormer on is a major change, I would think, and if they think that's a good idea, if the homeowner think that's a good idea and they want to take that advice that they might have heard here first, then that's their prerogative, but they would have to come back.
Correct.
Now, in this case, we're not adding dormers, we're just shoving that, so it's one of these minor issues. And in public, we've already discussed this as a board with the owner. So I don't think in that case, since it's only a minor tweak, we have a...
Well, here again,
Please.
There's not public comment at the moment, sir.
Pardon me?
There's no public comment at the moment, sir. There'll be a section in the end.
what we get stuck with is that this is the approval that goes in our pack. This is the public record that was approved. We can do some minor things, and we have done that. We've done a size of a window or raised the sill because of a kitchen sink, those type of deals. But for some bigger changes, it's kind of what's here, what they have approved on this record. So I don't have a problem, and I don't think the department or the township has a problem with the recommendations. But once we approve this, like now I have to call the last two applicants basically tomorrow and say, please don't change that too much. Or if you need to and you want to make a change, come in and talk to us. I got to make sure that it's minor enough, I don't have to bring them back.
Would it help at all if we even tried to write a single paper about small changes would include and write some of them down for all of us to be consistent?
Here again, I'm trying to be respectful, but the homeowner has paid a design professional to do what they want. That design professional has done his best with his roof lines and his window sizes, the balusters and all the other stuff. What we're asking, I guess, from the board is to kind of approve that. If there is some tweaks in the barge board wrapping or the columns or something, but to start changing roof lines and changing a dormer and doing whatever, that,
Agreed,
I guess my thinking,
agreed.
I think we're in agreement here, but I guess in my mind, and that's like what we have to talk about here, is what's a small insignificant change and what
well,
isn't?
in the ordinance, it allows judgments by the code officials, because
Right.
we get into this all the time with you saying, well, the window doesn't match, we need that window to be bigger or smaller, because the rest of the windows, well, it can't be smaller because it's a bedroom window, it has to go to egress. So those type of issues we get. There are times when there's an adjustment on a window, like we'll see in the plans, all the sills match. We know it doesn't match because it's over a kitchen counter. So that sill is up over the kitchen countertop. That kind of tweak or whatever that's in our purview to make a change, because it's a code or a structural issue that we have to work around.
But it's
And that's really where we come into to our tweaks. But we've actually made
Yeah.
the one up on West Wayne actually come back because he had two small windows stacked one on top of the other. He changed that window to a door so they could get the people out of that stairwell. Well, it's the same, but we
Right.
actually asked him to come back for
But it's the
that.
difference between a minor change and a major change.
Right.
And I think we all agree with that, and we've done that in the past, where major changes, like you say, roof lines or adding another dormer, people came back after another application. In this case, I think we all agree that this is a minor change. And again, this is a judgment call, what's minor, what isn't. So, I think it's the end of the discussion.
Thank you, Ray. We good?
Public comment?
I don't know how to answer that.
I mean, I just have
We're
one.
giving recommendations.
Yeah.
We don't want to stop this guy from going forward. And it's a minor thing,
Right.
but we have a difference of opinion on what minor might be. So-
All right,
how-
so was his plan that bad to approve the way it is? That's the way that his design professional designed it. It's the way the homeowner wanted it for the use of the space. They obviously spent a little time changing the roofs and doing whatever. So,
The plans we approved.
Okay.
As they are. We made suggestions that would make them better. It's up to them to decide whether to use that or not. And what you're saying is if they do that, they're coming to you, you got a problem with that.
Right.
I have to
So-
bring them back because it's changed from the approved on the record.
Right.
Yeah,
But in this case, it's like a minor change that we've discussed publicly, and we've agreed to that if they wanted to do that, that's perfectly fine.
All right.
In this one case, I mean, it's just
All right.
the case. It's case-by-case thing.
All right,
Okay? All right.
Public comment. Public
We don't
comment.
have public comment until item
Oh,
10.
well, maybe this guy wanted to talk about this.
Well, that's not the way it's laid out, so I'm just following the agenda. Joe, I think you're ready to talk about something. Introduce yourself, please.
My name is Joe Birch. I work for SW Bages Limited. What you have in front of you is 29 Luella Court. I thought I would just show this up here, if you guys can see it. I was here last month. There's the garage on the property, that's the style of the garage that we found that I think is closer to look like in the center here as the swinging doors as opposed to your standard garage door with 4 panels going across on aluminum. So hopefully that is.
That's great.
That looks good.
Because you had gone from, there were 2 sets of doors, you were going to 1 door, now you're back to 2 sets of doors again, which,
Oh, I'm sorry. That's the garage style. It's not 2 doors.
oh, that's not the door.
But the garage door is the style that we're going to, that it makes it look like a swinging door.
Gotcha, okay. Well, thank you.
I mentioned last month, when we were looking at this building, The right side, as you look at it from Llewellyn Court, the foundation has sunk approximately 4 to 5 inches from in the front or the back. The sinking goes almost midway to the center of the building, and that's causing us to rebuild much of this structure. It may be most of the structure at that point. Not knowing we have to do the footing has to go down 5 feet. So what you see here in the plans is a plan to rebuild the house the way that it appears now. The exterior is stucco. It is the same roof line that is there now. It's a hip roof with a little bit of a weird jog in the back where the back left-hand corner kind of cantilevers out a little bit. We are mimicking the brick roll lock at the window sills. And of the changes really on the building, I would say, previously the entrance was on the right side for the ground floor tenant as you went in. We've actually moved that to the left-hand side, but it's pretty much the ground floor entrance is a mirror with the door and the window, the double window down there. And the other change is, you can see in the existing pictures, at some point they added the staircase on the right side of the door that goes to the second floor tenant.
Is that off the porch? Is that the one? On the porch, the right-hand side? Or is it the side?
On this
Oh, that one, okay.
picture here, that's the entrance to the second floor tenant. The apartments are top and bottom. I think that was added at some point. It actually encroaches into the side yard setback. So in rebuilding this, we are moving the entrance to the upper apartment to the left-hand side of the building. Hence why we're moving the door on the ground floor, so the main kind of approach to the building approaches either the staircase going upstairs or the ground floor tenant. And just kind of, the property is much, this is kind of the layout of the property. The staircase to the second floor tenant was on this side. We're just moving it to that side, so you can see there's a lot more land mass. This is the garage in the back of the property that was here last month, and I think it kind of fits the building. The dimensions of the building are the same as it was before. There's no change to that.
The footprint is,
Correct.
Could you point out the changes on the proposed elevations, what you're talking about?
This is the staircase going up to the second floor space. And then if you look at the front, the door is now on the left-hand side. It was on this side. It's a little hard to see behind the existing picture. You can see it right behind the bush there. Really, that is the bulk of the change. Like I said, the roof line is the same. The overhang of the roof to the building is the same.
Are you adding you're adding the staircase on the other side of the building? That whole
Correct.
thing is new?
The staircase where it accessed it before was on the right-hand side. That was in the side yard setback there. You can see on this elevation here, the staircase was, say, midway between the windows, and that's just being moved to the other side of the building.
Okay, thank you.
I guess I was going to say, it says new two-story building. Does that mean this is a demolition?
It's not a demolition. We're trying to keep as much of it we can, particularly the left-hand side, but from this point over, that has to be rebuilt.
And
The footing has to go down about 5 feet to rebuild this side.
that's the side that's failing?
Correct.
And why is it failing?
It's poor soil.
It's a soil issue.
Correct. And then we had one proposal where they could put some type of screw rods in the ground, help, almost like a grade beam type of thing. But our problem is our second floor floors are about 3 to 4, 5 inches out. And the structure itself is that
Welcome to Wayne.
the terracotta cell,
Right.
where the floor joists are pocketed into that. So how do you then start cutting out the terracotta to raise up the floor and prop that up?
So it's stucco over terracotta?
Yes.
The
And then
clay
on the
tile
inside of it
block.
is just fairing strip. There's no insulation to the building. So one, it's energy inefficient. And as we dig down for the new footing and you have your dirt ratios and whatnot, I don't know exactly how much we're going to be affecting at this point. My guess is the left-hand ground floor wall will stay. But again, until we start getting into it, I'm not quite sure. But the intent is to build back pretty much exactly what you see there. The only thing that does not go back in the backhand corner, there's a little roof over the access to the basement. The thought was there, we'll put a Bilco door. The Bilco door is not shown on there, but we didn't put the roof back.
Can you tell what that shingle little addition, one story, that's the existing house?
The existing house?
Yeah, what was that?
I'm not exactly sure. My guess is when you look under it, there's a footing all the way around inside of the building. I think at one point that was a back porch
Okay.
that they just enclosed, so I don't think that's really in keeping with the finishes to the building. I should correct that. Then our thought was just to stucco that
Yeah,
since they
it
closed
looked-
it in, it's just kind of a afterthought.
It looked odd to me, too. And did you mention the the exposed stone foundation on whichever rear of the house? Is that all going to be rebuilt? Is
If,
that the
on the
portion?
rear,
Yes.
what you see from where those staircases going down to the left will definitely be removed. That has to go.
That's the one that has to go.
Yeah, because you can see where they patched the
Yeah.
corner of that building at some
Yeah,
point.
I do see that.
I just don't know how far down we have to go. If we're going 4 feet below what is there now, how much then am I affecting of what is the good foundation?
Right.
But
And will it be replaced with stone foundation, even if it doesn't get exposed?
no, we were planning on just doing poured concrete.
Okay.
But I think what we would do is we would cover that up with the stucco.
And we're losing a chimney as well.
Yes.
Is there any way to save the stone?
The stone in the back right corner as you look from the front,
Just the whole, I mean, is your intention to leave the rest of the building terracotta tile with stucco? Or are you talking about half of it? Or whatever stands up, or
whatever stands up.
if 2/3 of it's still standing, how's that tie-in work and all? I mean, is that,
I don't expect to, I know right here I have a crack in the foundation that I can put my fist into. That's how far it's pulled away. I know that's where I have bad soil. They're saying we have to go down 4 or 5 feet to get to good soil. So how much more of that am I affecting that way? The same thing in this back corner. This also backs up a lot of we're almost at that point on the curve here where a lot of the street comes down this way and drains across, and we get almost a ponding effect in the back. And then when the township garage got built, there's a wall a little further back there, which I don't know in the past if it's spilled through that property or not, but it's kind of been retained over the years, so I don't know if that's contributing to the speed of this, but at the same time, I'm kind of working in a vacuum until we get into there and see what we have.
is there any way you guys can access the second floor without building an appendage? You've got the most visible, most detailed part of the house that's now losing a big piece of that detail, which is a large fireplace. And then it's having something up on legs attached to the side of the house that's not in keeping with anything. It's a 2-apartment
Yes,
now, so it's still going to be 2 apartments?
correct.
Okay. I mean, you know, it had an addition, or it had a way in before. I think you allow stoops to go into the setback, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
One of the issues when they put that apartment on the second floor and made that was the old stairway that came down. So you come down from upstairs, you could turn right or left. Then at that floor to go like to the kitchen or to the living room. They actually just cut that doorway opening in there, cut off the steps going into the kitchen to give you more room in the kitchen. So that doorway, no way, shape, or form fit any kind of code. And right now, we
Well,
wouldn't
I'm
allow
not
that to
saying
go
that
back
it
in.
would now, but if you're going to rebuild it, could you still put in the same location, rework the interior, if you're going to go through all this trouble, and have a stoop that is only for stairs with cover, that is to a door, similar to what's there now, even if it encroaches into the side yard? I think stoops are allowed, if I'm not mistaken.
Stoops are allowed to be in the side yard setback. We don't like that, and if we can have that changed, they would do that. The other issue may be, and I'm just, because I've been over to the house a number of times, both with Joe and his structure guy, is we got to put footers down for those stoops and the stairways. That's taking out more of that side yard with the poor soil. I think one of their thought processes was to get the main door and the side door off the bad side of the building, so that they don't end up over excavating enough to hit clean soil for everything on that side. They are very limited to that property line even with their excavation. So understanding they got to go down and get good, clean, solid earth, it kind of made sense since the other side was, what, Joe, I'm not sure, but 30 feet or so, 40 feet to the side yard on the other side, and
It's even more than that.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand the reasoning for it, but I'm just,
And the neighbor's house, the driveway is right adjacent to the property line. And the
Right.
thought was, we're closer to the neighbor on this side, so we moved the entrances to the other side, more also at a convenience of the neighbor not to have all the adjacent traffic closer to his house. It's kind of now more central to the property and equidistant to both neighbors.
So although we're adding a staircase on one side, we're taking away the old staircase on the other one, on
Correct.
the other side.
Yes.
can you slide the site plan over a little bit so we can see the, okay. So is there any consideration for putting the first floor entrance to the second floor on the side elevation that has it on there now but has a second story entry? Is there any way that internally that could work?
I don't know what you mean by internally is stupid.
Well, you got to get a stair internally instead of externally. So is there a way to do it on the opposite side of the building, on the big side, where you have a lot of land, but entering on the first floor, having an interior stair, so both apartments are on first floor entries?
Not without expanding the footprint of the building, which my understanding is what I'm bound by.
All right, anybody else have any thoughts about that?
Is there any way that if it needs to be on that side of the building, if rather than having the stairway come up from the front, where you would be taking away the fireplace, that you could come up from the back, and therefore you could leave the fireplace and leave that front side of the building, which is visible to the street? I mean, it would mean that the person living in the back would have to walk down the driveway a little bit further, but at least it would preserve that front section with the fireplace and keep that massing.
With a lot of our apartments, we also have families in there. I'd rather, if you're going to visit this property and you're walking there, now you have a reason for people walking into the back of the property. I'd rather keep the access points and the entrances as close to the front. And if people use the back, there's no reason for people to walk to the back, off the street, that is. More for a safety purpose.
Could that be done, though? Is that possible? In that way, you could keep the interior plan, you wouldn't have to change, from what you have, but just access it from the back rather than from the, I hear what you're saying, but we're looking at this from an architectural point of view and from a massing and a neighborhood point of view. And I'm just wondering if, because this side of the house really does have the most detail. It would be nice if that could be preserved, especially since it's close to the street. But
Joe, I know one of the things they talked about when they were out there, you're kind of getting rid of the chimney anyway. It's not being used. There's no fireplaces, no more need for a chimney.
Correct.
Burners have all been, so it is in disrepair now and not being used. That
Yes.
was one of the considerations for doing away with the chimney to begin with, and rentals typically don't have the big
Fireplaces.
fireplaces because it's a liability issue.
Well, I don't know, the way I look at this, they're getting rid of an old, pretty ugly staircase and putting in a brand-new staircase. So I'm not sure that would have any significance on the historical aspects of the project.
Yeah. The first issue I took for myself was the whole staircase itself. And I kept on looking at it. What I heard today was a lot of really valid practical and design reasons why you put the staircase over there. And then I started driving around looking at homes, and we happen to go out towards Lancaster, Berks County, and there's an awful lot of older Victorian buildings, oftentimes apartment houses and hotels, that had really a configuration off to the side like this. Not just stairs that they put up because they needed a fire escape, but actually fairly built-in almost porches like this. So I said, well, geez, there's an awful lot of historical context with putting something of this design with this house. And then the second thing is you got a pretty bland house to start with. And this actually gives you some character. It's in the eyes of the beholder, maybe my eyes, but it actually gives you more character than what is there right now. Again, taking into consideration all of the valid reasons that were brought up today. I'm not going to repeat them. We've gone through that already. I don't think massing's a problem. I mean, it's from a scale factor that's very proportional with the house, and especially when you look at the house next door, which we would never have allowed if it ever came before us today. So, I don't see any real issues after hearing this presentation for me today.
Anybody else? I think I'd like to see another solution. I don't, I know what you're up against. It doesn't really relate to the bay below it. It doesn't do, it passes in front of one of the smaller windows. It doesn't do anything for the character of this building. Now, this building was built after Luella, what are we thinking, the 20s, probably, somewhere in there?
I think that was,
So it's a different generation in that district. Luella's 1897 or 1887 or whatever. And then the ring road was introduced and all these houses were put in a fan around there. And that happened in the 20s pretty much. So they all sort of started with this kind of appearance of stucco, and they had different designs. And then over the years, people have done whatever to them, and then it became an historic district. And now we're trying to sort of not have whatever happen in this historic district. To me, you've done 90% of what you need to do to this house to bring it back to its existing piece. The massing's the same. There's some very slight detail work that isn't there, but most of it's there. But this big stair piece, to me, is a glorified fire escape. and it really doesn't, relate to anything that should be there. So to me, that's a problem. And particularly when this site is one of the bigger pie shapes. And the house is to one side. So it's on the nice side of the house. It's the nice side of the lot. It's the visible side of the lot. I understand everything you're talking about, structure, setbacks, safety, internal versus external. But I can't, to me, this is, I think there's another solution, to me.
And what
Sorry.
would that be?
I don't know, but I'm not supposed to tell because I'll get in trouble, so. So we can vote, and that's my opinion, but, that's, anybody else have anything else to say? All right.
I guess one question, one more question is, does the location of the staircase, the more out of character portion, if it was, as Andrea said, accessed not from the front of the house, would that feel less out of character?
I just think it has to work with the house. Right now, I think it's put there for convenience for the floor plan. And you want a front entry. But, it enters in the center of the second floor, so you can do whatever you want up there. So it makes sense from that standpoint, but it doesn't relate to anything down below. So you have a nice hipped roof, which matches everything on top of it. It does call out a copper roof on the slope, but is that a flat roof with copper, standing seam? What are the materials? Is it, it's still, basically a deck on stilts with a roof on it. And that is the most interesting part of this elevation. And, I'm sorry to see the fireplace go, but I understand that thinking as well. So, I don't know, that's my opinion, but I would love to see some kind of solution that brings everybody in off the first floor and maintains the shape. I don't know what happens in that rear addition. I can't tell you how to do that, but I just would like to see another solution looked at. Again, that's my opinion.
Yeah, I think the way I feel about it, I agree with Cam. But, and I also think that the thing that's bothering me, and I know part of it may be the way it's drawn, but I don't think it is that post comes right, it obscures that bay window, and because this house is such a simple house, that bay window, I think, is more significant than it would be otherwise, if there was a lot of detail on the house. And by putting that staircase there, it really takes away that significance, and I think it changes the original intention of the house.
And, there's a minor point. The front porch now is a shed with, kind of a skirt flank. Sheds going the other directions, and now we've changed to a hip. I don't know, that's not as big of a problem as this side piece.
But I think also there was a staircase on the other side. It may have a few more risers. We tried to move the stair off the side of the building so it wasn't attached to the house to still preserve that corner of the house. But again, this is still a rental apartment. I hesitate to direct people to that portion to the back of the property or walking up the driveway. You could have families in here playing in the backyard. I think you're still better to have it that way. I think
Yeah, I mean, whether it's a good idea or a bad idea, that's not for us to concern ourselves with. We have to determine whether that has a detrimental impact on the historical significance of that property and the surrounding community, not whether it's good architecture or bad architecture, or there's better ideas out there.
but it's diminishing.
That's all we're here to do, decide how this affects the historical aspects of that community.
And I would take Cam's comment that 90% of the features are preserved with what we've presented here. And is that sufficient?
Anything else? You guys want to vote?
Mhm.
Okay. Make a motion?
Motion to recommend approval of a COA?
All in favor?
Aye.
Nay? What do you got?
Do we get that?
Okay, all in favor?
Raise your hands high.
Aye.
Okay, we've got, no, was that 3? All not in favor?
2.
So it passes 3-2.
Thank you.
Good luck.
I know, sorry. I know. Well, that's why I asked. Okay. The next two projects are my projects. I'm going to switch the order and go with HARB 2013-19, 106 Walnut Avenue, addition of third floor, shed dormer, and rear of house. And I'll present down there, and then we'll do the Oak Lane afterwards. Take that. Okay, my name is Cam Lacey, DCL Architects, and also chairman of the HARB. 106 Walnut Avenue. Let me get this out. The owner's John Valentini, he's here tonight, and Margaret Mosel. We can start with a site plan. This house is on the east side of Walnut Avenue, directly next to the Gulf Creek, this being Gulf Creek, right there. And here's Walnut Avenue. This is a 1920s Craftsman bungalow-style house. And it's essentially what it has been and has continued for those years. This is the house in question. It's got an asymmetrical gable roof from the second floor, which gives you kind of a half of a third floor, but it comes all the way down and creates a cover for the front porch. And then lifted out of that is a shed roof that gives you 3 windows for the second floor. The rear of the house is only punctuated by a single dormer, which is right here. And then there's a small shed off the back that has a smaller deck attached to it. That's that little dormer up there. And then there's a small garage attached to that as well. So the driveway comes in, you have the main house, the porch is in the front, and here's the garage piece. This house is completely in the floodplain for Gulf Creek. So the possibilities of doing any additions on the first floor are pretty slim with that in mind. But what they really needed was more bedroom space and some clarification and cleanup of what they have. So part of this project is to reorganize the second floor into master suite office space for the home office. And then the third floor is basically 2 rooms that are really small. And I'll get the existing heading. Here's the existing third floor. This little window, it has that little shed roof that pops out of it on the back. And then this is the shed on the front that gives you the second floor use here. So what this applicant wanted to do was, this is a finished space but kind of rough, but they wanted to be able to use it for an office space and a bedroom. So we looked at making this whole area a shed dormer to increase the space on this side, which is kind of the north side, for the bedroom space, have a little den space, and then also have a bathroom. And that's, the typical dormer addition is indented off of the end of the building, comes out, does not go through the roof line, and does the same thing on the other side. And that's how this resolved itself in this one. So you can see how this room becomes a guest room. We have an egress window. The stair actually gets some light into it as a result. There's a bathroom and a den. And all the internal stuff that goes on the second floor is compensated for in the third floor. Now that looks like this. The side elevation shows you that asymmetrical roof line that gives you the porch enclosure, and then here's the front dormer that pops up out of there, and then this is carved out. So that gives you that sort of deep roof wall line up in the front there that you can see here. This section here is the new shed dormer, which is in rear elevation, is here. So you can see it's indented off the corners and it's up the roof a bit. And we're going to try to actually bring this in more if we can. The existing house used to be a wood siding. It's been covered up in vinyl and aluminum clad. They're going to take all that off and go back to a hardy plank siding. So it'll go back to its original scale. That'll be used in the new piece. It has cedar shingles now. We're going to at least take care of the rear of the building in new cedar, and phase 2 would be to do that in the front. So that would be restored. And then the top of the shed is a rubber roof, which you can't see from anywhere. So basically, this little corner, you might see a little piece of that when you're from the street. I can kind of walk you around the neighborhood here. We did the back of the house, the shed. This is the next door neighbor to the north, which actually came through Harbor, I believe, a few years back. There are about 5 of these houses that go along Walnut and go around the curve and onto North Wayne Avenue. And most people the only things they've done are enclose the porch. Sheds in the back have kind of grown or bumped out a little bit, but basically the fronts of the houses look like this. They're great examples of this kind of house. We wanted to maintain that front facade. They love the porch. Wayne's a porch community, so that remains. And so the only difference is this back addition. So as from a standpoint of street appeal, you're not going to really see it. It gives them great utility, and we're matching all the materials. Across the street, you've got one of the gabled ends, and then a larger, kind of a shingle style. And then this is the neighbor on the other side of the street. This one didn't get in your packet, I don't think. I don't know how that happened, but that was on the south side. So the stream runs right through here. And this is a little different design, but it's still a porch porched house. So that's pretty much everything. Any questions or clarifications?
I have a question. When you said Phase 1 and Phase 2, what were you referring to exactly?
Just if they can't put the front of the house roof in Phase 1, which is cedar,
Oh, okay.
they're obviously on the back of the house, they're going to rip half the roof off, so they're going to do all that, which isn't that much by the time you're done. So there may be a possibility that they only do the back half and then they'll do the front half later.
Okay.
No change in anything else. It's just a material change.
Okay,
Or
thanks.
it'll be a material delay.
And what's the front of the house, the roof
It's
material?
cedar shingle.
Oh, so they want to replace it just because it's old? Is
Yeah,
that what you're saying?
it's at the end of its life. So the idea is that, what you're seeing in the picture, I don't know if he's going to stay with green or not, but the detail of the clapboard and the corner boards and the fireplace and the windows are going to be wrapped in the AZAC, which is our typical, but they'll be matched to what's there. And your new windows will have that kind of, that kind of deal. And that's pretty much it. They're really doing an internal, it's really an internal job except for that shed.
You said the windows are going to match as well as possible.
Yeah. The only window I have these are all double hungs, except for some on the far side of the house. This little bay was added later. This window, I have to make a casement for egress, but I tried to keep the same size. It's just not going to look quite the same, but they can mullion it up and do something to do that. But these new ones will match, the same scale of the other ones. And it's 1/1. It's pretty simple. Most of them have been replaced with something else over time. It's a stone base brick chimney. It's a great example of this bungalow. Very simple.
I think it's fairly simple, really, in terms of from the exterior. And because you're adding a shed dormer, but it's not really visible from the front. And it's mimicking the type of architectural detail that's already on the house. I think that's within our.
Yeah, I don't see that there's a real big impact
No,
by
I
looking
don't
at this
either.
house before or after.
No.
So,
Or to the massing of the community. I think it's
Right,
the
right.
same.
That's all I have to say.
I'll make a motion to,
Motion to recommend approval of a COA?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? One.
I
vote?
can't vote, so. Thank you very much.
Now we'll give you our suggestions.
All right. Yes, I'm sure you do.
I recommend some conditions.
All right, the next project is HARP 2013-18, 417 Oak Lane. Additions, which include front porch, rear kitchen, breakfast room, mudroom, a rear deck, and exterior renovation and restorations. Let me get that out for you. I'm going to start with this site plan. You guys have a smaller version of this that's color. But this one's a little bit easier to walk through. This property is one of the original Wayne houses that was designed by Wendell, built by Wendell, is it Wendell and Smith? Yeah, Wendell and Smith. And it was designed by Worthington. And there are about 15 of these houses in, let me get rid of that. There are about 15 of these houses in the Wayne area, mostly in North Wayne. And this is the little brochure that was put out at the time of the sale of these houses that shows it being called the Gabled Inn, and there's a small picture of it. But it said it's called the Little House, but that's only in looks. Has a good porch and contains reception room, large square hall, and oaken stairways. Living room, dining room, pantry, kitchen, and out kitchen on first floor, and 5 chambers and bathroom on second floor with good enough loft, good rough loft overall. Plumbing is as good as the best. Stairway of oak furniture finish and back stairs. This design costing $5,500 with lot 60 by 200.
What year was that?
That was 1898.
I think it was 2008.
So you gotta factor in a few things there. One of the great things about this property, other than it's in North Wayne, and it's got a double lot, and it is one of these original buildings. There are plans of this building that I was able to find at the Historical Society. So basically, there are 15 of these houses. They had a stock plan that had a whole bunch of detail on it, but then everybody kind of went and did a few options here and there over time. So it's really interesting to be able to start from that point. And that was just such a great find. So, and there are many good pictures from the 1890s of this style house. This is one of the a good example, which has a stone entry porch. Again, it's the gabled inn. They either had a wood kind of a keyhole shape, but it was always this great big gable coming over the front porch, and then a cross gable that went the other way, and it ended in a mansard hip roof on one side or the other, depending if it was a flip plan or not. The other side was really interesting. It had just a gable, but it had a kind of an extended gable with 4 windows in it. So it was kind of an interesting addition. One of the other great things about this resource is that these are all taken on glass plates, and I can zoom in to that corner and look at the moldings. The resolution's incredible. So we have a lot of information about what this used to be. The house that we're talking about today is covered in vinyl siding, and all the windows are clad in wood. No shutters, asphalt roof. This one does not have a porch. Now, in the inventory description, it says that it had a porch that was removed, but I haven't found any evidence of that. So I don't think it ever had a porch. And I think it also has a couple other things. What's exciting about this is it's addition work to an existing historical structure. It's restoration, which is, we're going to take all the vinyl off this house and see what we have. And if it's there, we're going to try to restore it. If it's not, we're going to try to recreate it. So right now, it's kind of this thing hidden in a package, and we're ready to unveil it. So a lot of what we want to do is still hidden. So we've made some assumptions and decided that, we're going to take this path, but as we go along, we're going to kind of listen to what this building tells us, mainly in just materials. The footprint's is a fixed deal. That's the design that the clients want. That's Mary and Greg O'Shea. this is the proposed plan. The dark shape there, the dotted line, that's the existing structure. This center section is a 2.5-story wood structure, except for this corner, this end here. This was an addition that was kind of a sun porch added in probably the 80s. What we're trying to do, and it's typical of this design, is that there was a porch, a front porch on this section of this existing center porch. And then we want to kind of wrap a piece around that's all one floor that expands a mudroom, does a kitchen, breakfast room, and another mud space over here, and then expand a deck beyond that. So this little line here is the existing deck line. So you're sort of taking the back of the house and just pushing it back a little bit. And this is, again, all one story. This little piece here was a utility space and a back porch from the old plans and from what we can see there. It's been totally enclosed and it has some growing pains that we need to kind of fix, so we're going to fix that and kind of expand it a little bit, but it'll gain a rear porch again. So here's the front of the building. It's got a stone base. This is all narrow 4-inch vinyl siding now and vinyl siding up here. This is where that porch would be, but this big overhang that goes all the way around has some really interesting moldings in it, and it goes all the way through on this side, and it looks like original molding. So to me, if they had a porch, that wouldn't have been there. We haven't gotten into the ground to look for footings or anything, but you know, stranger things have happened. There are a few in the neighborhood that don't have porches, maybe one. The other interesting thing is that this has an end fireplace, and most of them were designed with center fireplaces. This one's framed for a center fireplace in the basement, but doesn't have it. I have a picture from 1898 where you can just barely see the house, and it looks like it has a center fireplace. So I don't know. But, you know, it is what it is now, and we're going to go from there. Here's the rear of the building. As you come around the west side, this is that little first floor addition I was telling you about. This used to be an outdoor porch here, and then there was a cold storage room, and then that was kind of a utility space. This is the existing deck as you move around a little further. And then this is the end of the cross gable, that's that mansard hip, and off of that's a little gabled hip. This is, again, kind of the southeast, or rear and east. This is the sun porch addition that was done later on with the deck. Here's the sun porch addition. This has some interesting roof lines that we're going to kind of look at too, because I think it's maybe a double roof on top of that. And the proportions are all wrong on the windows, but we're going to kind of leave that alone for now, other than change some of the scale of the siding on it. A bonus is that it's got one of these rare finds where we have an outbuilding that's in great shape. This is going to be another phase, but it's a carriage house that has a 2-stall horse side and a carriage side with a rolling door on the first floor. That's all there. It's been cleaned up a little bit, but it's there. And the second floor that was loft for hay and whatever has been finished, and it's a kid's playroom. So that's what you're starting with. And then you've got an outside covered area. So that's going to be another fun project to go in, but it's in great shape. And we've all been here, done that, where these things are falling apart and you can't save them, and nobody can afford to save them. This thing it's there. It's great. So that's that piece right there. I kind of have a few shots on this corner which show this original molding going around, which kind of, you know, it doesn't tell me that there was any, this would have been the spring line for this roof line for that porch. And this porch didn't have a straight shed. It had a curved shed on all the originals. So given that this is all kind of original molding, we think it never had one, but we want to go back to that kind of toolkit for this house and say we want to put that back. And then we're going to borrow some things from some of the other houses. This is that suspect roof we think has a couple layers of framing on it. It's just too high. So we're going to kind of investigate. I'd like to try to minimize that if I can, if the budget allows. These are neighbors next door. This is the same style house, but it has the stone arch opening. It does have this kind of conical gable piece that has been removed from our house. The front porch is here, but it has a straight shed.
Cam, pull that over to your left.
I'm sorry. You can't do that? Here's the stone, 2 windows, conical, kind of a gable. This was a porch that was enclosed. And then this is this sort of little gable bay that just kind of extends the roof line you see in a lot of them. Ours doesn't have that. And then this particular one has a 2-story addition on this side. The little first floor addition would have been behind this section in the original house, so that was an addition. This is uphill. That would be the J. That's in the western side. This is a totally different style house, but ours is a shingle style. These all of them have shingle. I mean, that's kind of the siding and shingle is the materials of choice. But again, it's all front porch community. Now this is the south side of the street, and this is a whole nother development. Sorry, a whole nother development of houses that are all similar, but they all have their own characters, and it's done with color, and it's done with some of these things have been redone where that has access to a second floor. This has no porch. That has some. But you can see the variety that happens even within the same exact shape. I'll get you into a plan so you can kind of understand this thing. These prints are sort of out of order, but if you go to A1E, that's the existing floor plan. And this is the existing front porch that has the keyhole. This is all cedar shingle. And then this is that big overhang that wraps all the way around. And it goes around the dining room as well. It's a pole gutter system. The sun porch was added, we think, in the 80s. Some of the schemes have that fireplace in the middle, and you have a dining and living room. This is a huge room that's just benefited by having this at the end. So it's very different, and this kind of sold the house to the owners. When they came in here and saw this large space, typically you come into these houses and everybody says, I don't have any space. I gotta have a thing. I need a big room, I need space. So a lot usually happens off the back. And sometimes that can get very big. We have that, and it's existing, and it's part of what this house is now, so we don't need to do that. But this kind of arrangement doesn't really work for this family. So what we're trying to do is take this function and move it out here, get a proper eat-in kitchen, and then do a mud space over here. Remember, the driveway's here going to the kind of the garage area. So you're sort of, this is not really the right side of the building to be entering, so we needed to do that here. And this will stay laundry and utility, which it was originally. And then we would extend it to have a porch area, which would kind of echo back to what it used to be, but it's just a little bit bigger. All these rooms would remain the same. The second floor doesn't really, it's just internal changes. We didn't go through, don't really need to get into that. So I guess for roof lines, let me get the first floor first. So A1, the original footprint goes here and then straight across. And then there's a little offset there. So we're expanding this piece just with the porch line. The existing wall line would stay the same. And then this would bump out, and then we would progressively step back. But the thing that unifies it all is that this roof line is a shed. This roof line is a shed and connects to this shed. And then the centerpiece over the kitchen, we want to mimic what's on the second floor, which is that gambrel, hip gambrel and put that on the first floor and actually open that up in the interior to expose those shapes. So that really makes, kind of the hub of the house a little special. And then here's the front porch section. One of the things we decided to do was borrow from some of the other houses. There's another house called the Pillar House, which is in the area, which I kind of think is the big brother of this house. And you guys don't have this in your packet, but these are supporting and equal, the same kind of houses in the area. These are the gabled ends that are in the area, and again with the stone. And most of them had a triple window system above. You can see that conical roof. Porch, same thing, 3. That one just has a kind of a terrace. This one has been, that's a terrace as well. And then you've also got a timbered frame with a dashed pebble on it. And then all of them typically, that's that gambrel, as you can see. This one is probably the best example of what it used to be, or what any of them used to be. And you can see how that roof line has a curve to it. And then there's, in all of them you'll see, and I should get back there, you can see they all have sort of a center. You can see a fireplace way back there. These designs all kept that original center fireplace. Here's one that's been enclosed. So they've done all sorts of different things. This one's enclosed with not a lot of detail, so it's got all the siding has been kind of melted around. Same kind of idea there. This is the bigger brother to this house, I believe. It's a Pillar House. There are a bunch of these around the neighborhood too. And what's typical with them is that they have similar details. Here's a conical piece up there. They've got the big kind of gable or gambrel coming out over the front porch, but that's all their porch. They kind of incorporate the two, but one of the great things about these is that they have a stone base that comes up under each column. So they kind of come out of the ground. The columns can be double, they can be single, but they're short, and they meet this stone base. And that's a quality that the owners liked. There's another one that has kind of an exaggerated version of that. But, we sort of looked at these and said, well, this is kind of the toolkit for North Wayne. And we want to use some of those because we're recreating something that probably wasn't there, but was on the original house, but we're going to kind of bring it up a little bit. These are really tiny. And then there's another double. And these they could be square, some of them are turned. They're all solid wood. This one looks like it's been redone. It's kind of a paneled version. And then when you get up in these roof lines, you always have these little sheds that pop out. There's all these really interesting roof lines that happen up high. So that's kind of the neighborhood. Everybody still here? Still with me? All right, so outside. Let's go outside on this thing. All right, so here we have the front elevation that's proposed. And I should be able to do this. I don't know if our field is big enough for that, but a little more. There we go. This is the existing facade. Vinyl siding everywhere, except for this is original wood shingle painted. These are stone piers. There's stone that wraps around this side. This is a scalloped wood detail under this window, kind of corner bay. It's original. But you see there's no water tables or anything that picture I showed you had. And everything's plastic. Now, I went around the back of the building and I took some of the plastic off, and there's 4-inch clapboard there. Now, I saw a piece this big, so I don't know where that's going to take us, but we know that, from pictures and from this, that something's under there. And here's that later addition there. So what we're trying to do is restore, we may be able to restore this. This isn't in that bad a shape. We don't know what's under here, but we want to go back to that siding and go with the water table that connects you between siding and stone. And then put this porch back in, and this roof line will have that curve to it. But introduce these column bases and columns from that kind of, I keep calling it a toolkit of parts, but, a Wayne house part. This isn't what this house originally had, but I don't think it ever had a porch. We want to put a porch back on, and we're going to borrow from some of the components around. We're not going to do a lot of work on this piece other than if I can minimize that roof line, but what I do want to do is break this big area up that's just, a wasteland of siding into some panels, which really are, it's siding in between verticals and horizontal.
Yeah.
And that's a very typical detail.
That curved roof over the new porch area, we've seen this before where in some of the houses, it starts up at that small window and curves down, and there's a carve out for the double window.
You see that too.
Yeah.
This house, it never did that on, and I've got a side elevation I'll show you. I think I have that curved on this one, but we're going to probably use that greenhouse that I showed you that is a great example of what was here and kind of take our keys off of that. We know that owner, so he's kind of said, anytime, come by. Again, when we take everything off, we're going to go do that too. We may have a pebble dash existing up here instead of cedar. I think it kind of makes, I kind of like this, even if it isn't, it's one of the examples that's shown that's done that way. But I think having cedar around the whole second floor and then changing something special here would make sense, particularly if you got cedar down here. And then reintroduce that little gable conical piece that's on all the other houses. So you got that new piece, restoration of the exterior. There are about 3 or 4 different window types on this house. There's one that's this style, which we're going to keep. There are a few that have this 2/1, and I think right now we've said that's what we want to pick as the window. So this drawing shows kind of a mix of that, with the exception of some of the French doors or glass doors. We'll look at what's available in those. Right now, it's sort of show the standard 15 light or whatever. And that's on the rear of the house. So the rear has, you got this kind of view. This is the existing. And it's just, pretty much a big wall, with the exception of this little addition. And then it breaks down on the west side into that gambrel and kind of another hip piece and a little dormer. So from the curb, this house has all these interesting shapes that make sense, and on the back, it sort of looks like, whatever. It's really kind of a strange composition when this is so clean, and then it goes crazy over there. But that's going to stay, and what we're going to do is put that addition with this kind of a roof line in the center, and then try to take this line all the way around. And in this drawing, I've shown it being a little higher, because it is higher now. And the idea would be that we would try to make it all the same, or have some kind of a jog in there. But it's at the definition line between the sun porch and the new piece. So it's clearly going from another time period to another time period. You see that jump. And this little addition is brought in a little bit as well. So I like to be able to maintain a footprint that shows time over time. So you have the original footprint, you have another footprint from before that's later on, and then you have ours. And they all sort of say, well, this is a little bit different. And then you wrap them in similar materials, and it all works together. So this whole piece is one story off the back. The siding that's here now has a kind of a kick out here, and it goes to siding. Again, that's a real indicator that there was cedar shingle that went to kind of that standard band where it goes from cedar to siding, and it always kicked out a little bit and had a molding in there. So it may still be in there, and it's going to be right at a roof line here, but when you go around the house, you'll see it there. The only thing on the second floor is we're going to move these windows around a little bit to get uses behind them that work a little better. So I've taken the front window style and gone to a smaller window here. These are rooms that don't need big windows. And then we've added a double to this room, which mimics the front of the house, which is here. So those are the changes on the back. And then I've kind of dotted in where the deck railings are. But this porch railing, we want to do real wood in all the railings on the porches. And the porch floors, we want to go into a 2 1/4, 2.5 inch mahogany. When we get outside on the deck, we're going to go to a timber tech, or one of those types of materials, which will have that dark kind of same kind of a finish as a mahogany. And then the railings will look as much as we can just like this. You know, we don't want to have this standard kind of plastic, really thin top. And I've got a couple examples of those, but it's a thicker top that matches this. Square spindles, same kind of a heavy bottom shoe rail. And then we can go back to cedar down here as a closure piece.
Ken, what are you doing with the railing on the deck? It doesn't show
The
anywhere.
deck's going to have that same railing, you know, all along here, but it'll be in the timber tech material. So it has that same scale. I just took it out so you could see the house, but otherwise it'd be a little busy. But I have examples, like I say, of that. As we move around, we've got A5. I hope that's coming out okay for you guys. This is that east elevation with that first floor kind of sun porch addition. Second floor is a simple gable with a couple of quarter rounds. And then that's that first floor shed way beyond. And then it has a deck that's existing. So we're just going to dress up this existing piece. And it's mainly just paneling and siding and a water table. This is a stuccoed masonry right now, and all I like to do there is color it to a darker color. It's light now, and it shows everything. And I usually try to take a color in the stone that exists and kind of match that, just wrap it around. This is a side view of that the new front porch with that curve that we're trying to do on there, and it ends up being just a continuation of the shingle, stone pier, flagstone cap. Columns we're going to make out of AZAC or polystone, but it'd be a material that's inert. And then these would be all wood. And this is a mixture of cypress and what's the other wood? Cypress and I can't think of the other one. But they're really naturally waterproof in a way. But it'll be a painted detail. So the addition that comes out first is this is that kind of that mudroom piece. It's set back a little bit, and it has a back porch. So it's a shed that hopefully we can connect together, or there'll be a break here. And then that's a gambrel that goes beyond. From the other side, it's a siding line. This vinyl goes all the way up now, and there's kind of a little bump in here again that's on the back. And here's that gambrel with the gable within, and there's a little shed up there. That's an air conditioner that's going to go. But these windows will remain. These are existing. We'll change them out. So in the proposed, we reworked this roof line to come out a little further to catch that new porch. This line here is the same as that line. And then beyond that, you have that gambrel piece again that goes over the kitchen, and then the deck's beyond. And the way this deck works is that you come off of the main floor, you go down 6.5 inches to sort of a smaller deck piece, and then there's 2 more steps to the main deck, and then you go down a little bit further. So I'm trying to really minimize the deck to go to the earth quicker. And that's not entirely shown here, but that's the idea. The extent of it is correct, but I've left it out to kind of keep your eye on this. And I guess the only thing that we've, between this submission and now, we decided to go, we wanted to open up that ceiling in the kitchen under this roof. And I don't like to open up roof lines unless you can get some natural light up there. So what we've done, and I've got copies for you. Let me hand them up. I hope I have a copy. Okay. So we're gonna introduce a little. It's kind of a it's not a half round, but it's a compressed half round, which would be this. If you can zoom in on that one, that center one here. But there's a window right in there that we've introduced just to get some natural light. And that's, if you look at this original plan, it has half rounds in some of the window choices, so it's kind of a, again, one of those things that you don't necessarily see them on all these houses or any of these houses, but it was in one of the original plans. So I don't feel like, and particularly in that roof shape, you can't really get into a square window and how that all connects together. I think it would look better with just a simple, and that's just a copper roof. So on the side view, that's all you see.
That's a copper roof on it?
Yeah, just a round copper.
That actually aesthetically is an improvement to that rear.
From that? Mm-hmm. I thought so. And it does 2 things. I mean, I think it breaks up that roof line.
Mm-hmm.
The other gambrel has a gable in it, but this one's, it'd be too fussy to do in this smaller gambrel. But this kind of adds, it does really good things on the interior, and it actually puts something out there on the exterior too. So that was the only change that we've gotten that isn't an internal thing. But basically it's, we have the front porch addition, we have the rear addition, we have this deck, and then we have this restoration. Well, there's interior, we're moving some things around interior, but that doesn't come under this venue. So the restoration part is the most exciting part to me, because you do all of this forensic work to look at what was there, and you sand through paint layers and you find colors. And most of the old photographs I have of these houses were dark. They were all dark woods and corner beads, and this is a white house. I mean, it's white underneath. So somebody kind of got scared and said, well, white's safe. And it happens a lot, and they just do it. But under those layers, there's probably a whole bunch of information that we'll find. So we'll take some keys off of that. They're going to have their own opinions too. But I want to go through that first and say, well, does this work if we go with these? So those are the fun things. Aside from, having one of the original Wendell and Smith houses.
Now, what if you took off that siding, the existing vinyl, and you found most of the original siding intact?
It's got to be one of those things where how much of it is intact? Does it pay to fix it? Right now, it's got 1-inch foam on it, on top of the original, and then vinyl. The fasteners that put that all on, what did that do? Did they caulk all the joints and it's all rotted behind? All those questions. But if it's real and it's there, we'd love to maintain it. You have to look forward. If it's going to be something that's sort of on the cusp and down the road it's going to be a problem, we probably will replace it, but do it in hardy plank material, but in the same scale. So I would love to see it all restored, but I don't want to get my hopes up that it's all there and it's all good and it's all perfect and it's all fixable, but you never know.
When you say the hardy planks shingles, are there like the plywood with the shingles attached to it and you put it up in planks?
The shingles they're put together in groups,
Right,
and then they're
Right.
made to course out and look like they're all separate.
right. So that's what I
But it's
mean.
the same thing, and the planks are just, they're planks. And it's just a matter of how much overlap you have for the exposure as you go up. But, it's all the old, it's balloon frame, it's plaster, it's all the old problems, Put a marble on the floor, it goes everywhere, that kind of stuff. So, but that's the kind of the draw of these houses. So we want to get that porch back, to get that porch community back to this house, if it had it at all, but certainly join the community, bring it up to date on the interior with what the owner wants today, and bring back some of the components that used to be there, such as the rear porch that we're putting back in the same place, but a little differently, and a porch on the other side. So it's all this, addition under one sort of roof line that goes in and out. So there's voids, positives and negatives in there. So to maintain the original footprint as something you can look at and say that's the original, something I really wanted to maintain, but then put this new piece in and have it work with this house, from this house, and from the neighborhood. So those are the kind of the things that we looked at as we looked around the neighborhood, is to borrow a few ideas. But most of it's going to be what this house used to be. That's the idea.
I think it's a great project. I really like the stone piers. I think front and back, that's a great addition. I don't think the addition has a big impact from the site, from the neighborhood. So I think it's really, really strong plan.
Thank you, sir.
Any other comments?
Well, I'm just going
No,
to,
ditto.
reiterate that what people are saying is that I just think you're bringing back what was there, and you're feeling the neighborhood and keeping it a very vibrant portion of it. And I like that even if you're extending in the back, it's in the back. You're keeping the footprint configuration, but the majority of new stuff is in the back, and you're making the front porch where it should be probably located anyway. So I'm just thinking all of that's great, but the restoration is going to be very exciting.
Yeah, it's all the other stuff has been there, done that. It's all fun anyhow. But when you get to be able to go through one of these, a lot of times vinyl can destroy stuff, but a lot of times it can preserve it. You just never know. It's all how it's put together and how that J bead goes on and all that kind of stuff. So it may be shocking.
Yeah.
We'll see.
You'll see. I know when I started looking through this package and I went through this, I didn't even know who the architect was or anything. And I really liked the design. I didn't realize it was you until I actually went to the application form.
Then you hated it.
Yeah. No, it sounds almost self-serving and a conflict of interest, but I was really impressed with the whole design and the restoration of the building,
Well, thank you.
and really sensitive to taking one of these older buildings and really sensibly modernizing it, changing it for modern use. That's a
Right.
better way of saying it.
Definitely.
Well, that's the idea, and you try to do that with the least amount of impact, visually and on the ground and everything else. So, again, this is one of these double lot properties, which is really unusual. So I don't feel like we've, encroached on anything with this. It's, it really has the room to breathe, and I don't think we went overboard with that. I think it all was kind of in the scale, particularly since it's, predominantly a first floor piece. It's just a one-story piece, except for that one little extension on that kitchen roof. So, I don't know, they seem to like it. Yeah, okay, got a thumbs up.
I think one of the greatest, more buck for your, however you want to call that, the little eyebrow is like going to give it such punch. When you look
Well,
at the other
you know,
homes,
there's some that still exist, and they've been vinyl sided over.
I
So
know,
somebody went to the trouble to do that, and there's some that are not there.
it's just,
And, you know, they either fell apart because nobody could reach them, or it could have been they didn't put them on. I mean, you know, you never know. It's like I say, it's one of these, it's like today. You see a development, there's a house number 7, and then you buy it and you do whatever you want beyond the house number 7. That's
Yeah.
what happened in these houses.
exactly.
This double window, there are a couple others that have that in the existing, but most of them have a triple. The center one is higher,
That's right.
and the 2 flanking are shorter. Some of them had a circle top on top.
Right.
Um,
That's great.
Since there are other examples that have this is probably original, and it was one of those options. So, but I got to show you guys when we're done this picture. I can't zoom in it here, but I can count. There's a picture of Oak Lane from 1898 or whatever it is. And you can count the houses, and this is number 5, and you can see just the end of it. So you can see cedar siding, but chimney in the middle, different window configuration on that gable. But you can't see that porch, it's behind something, so it's not there. But I mean, those are the kinds of things that, you know, you can comb through these, and particularly these glass slides. It's better than anything we have today.
That's great.
It's unbelievable what you can look at. And so I've got all that, and this is, you know, Greg Pritchard from Historical Society. I called him up at the beginning of this, and I said, I got this plan. It shows up on the Anthonyum. You've got plans. I know you were scanning them. Do you have them? He said, yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness.
You want to go home?
I would recommend denial until the vinyl siding is taken off and see what we have, with conditions.
All those in favor of approving as submitted?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Nice project.
Thank you.
No, this, as submitted with this drawing.
Yes, yeah, definitely that's in the record. There's 3 drawings that are 8th scale that are the rear elevation, east and west elevations with the addition of that small circular or half-round window. All right, I think I can go back to my seat now. Right?
Yeah.
I'll clean this up later.
I know. Thing is, it was actually interesting. Yeah, I can't,
All right, we are through all of the projects that are on the schedule. We're now to new business. Any new business?
Yes.
Come up and state your name.
Kenneth Lane.
Can you go to the microphone, please? Do you need that to show?
Excuse me?
Do you need a table to show things? I'll move that. You need this at all?
No.
Okay.
Is this still on? No?
I might have turned that on.
Okay. I'm a layman, and I don't think I have too much to show, but I think it's very obvious. I want to enclose a porch here. I'm located on 207 West Wayne Avenue. And the object of the new improvement is to provide a greenhouse. In other words, this is not a room. This will not be lived in. It'll provide me with, if you're ever on 207 West Wayne Avenue, up from the library, the first block, there is a garden along the strip, a medium strip there. that is mine. It's a cooperation with my neighbors. A lot of them are tropical plants, and they had to be taken in the wintertime. As of now, I have a plastic cover that you might see in restaurants where the restaurants want to keep the outdoor area. It comes down, and it provides me with a greenhouse. It's not all that attractive in the wintertime. I hope this would be an improvement. And the way it's set up, none of the structure is in any way destroyed or changed. It'll be all glass. It'll all be behind the columns here. So in no way will the structure be changed. The glass will be behind, and the only metal part you will see is between the columns. And they are 4 strips of glass, and they will, in the summertime, be folded back and screened in.
So that's like a sliding glass kind of a thing?
It'll be sliding glass, like a doors, sliding glass doors. And now the only thing that the porch goes out beyond the building. And so you see this is the back part of the porch, and there will be a door there where there is just an opening there.
Are there stairs there now?
The stairs already exist,
Okay.
and has already, and you see a railing going down. That is not there and will not be there. I don't know why that was added. So that already exists. So that's pretty much it. It'll be sliding doors, all glass. There will be some, and the metal part will be above and below, so you will not see the metal part at all from the street, except the only metal part will be where the glass is divided down.
So you're actually installing this behind the porch beam and behind the...
Yes,
everything?
totally.
Okay. So
Totally.
if somebody wanted to take this down, there'd be no measurable, the railing staying, all that?
Oh, the railing staying, everything is
So
staying.
someone could come in and say, I don't like this, and it's back to that?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
So it's a reversible improvement.
Yes.
And yeah, the skylights exist already, so you've got that added greenhouse thing going on
That's right.
for your, okay.
You're just asking us for our opinions? I'm not sure what,
Well,
I was asked, I went before the commissioners 2 weeks ago, I guess is when they're meeting. They said that it has to be, I guess, approved by you, and then you'll go back to commissioners, and they will likely approve it, but they wanted your input.
My opinion is you don't need our approval on this. You put up
That's the
some
way I
windows on
felt
the
all
porch.
along.
Yeah.
I could not understand why this would be,
You shouldn't be talking to us.
I know it. So,
That's my opinion. There's a lot of people here,
It's-
but
but that's what,
you're not changing the footprint.
no, nothing
You're
at
not
all.
demolishing anything.
Nothing at all.
You're not
Is that
ripping things off.
Nothing at all.
Expanding usable space, I guess.
well, it's usable
not
space
a- that's
now.
I know what you're saying. It's
ordinance.
like, it's nice that you're
I mean,
telling us.
you know,
that-
the only thing you're changing is you have one big opening on the street side and 2 smaller openings on each flanking side.
And you'll see metal strips.
And you're
When they're
changing that-
closed, the metal strips
all.
will go
You're
down.
changing that dimension or that proportion a little bit with sliding glass, but it's still behind the original opening.
That's
Exactly,
right.
that's what
Yeah.
it is.
So you're maintaining that, you're adding something else, and actually that'll kind of go away in the darkness of things.
I think it's-
I presume the metal will be like dark colored or something?
It'll be
The browns or whatever they call it.
it'll be the aluminum or whatever it is.
I mean,
Natural.
color-wise, is that dark bronze color or something like that, or?
I don't believe so. It'll be more of this
More of an aluminum.
natural
Metal.
aluminum.
Natural aluminum.
Yeah.
You may want to think about getting that colored. I mean, so you could get it like in bronze or something like
It's
that.
possible, yes.
Then it'll really just fade in the background. Otherwise, you'll see the aluminum.
Now, let me just back up for a second. One of the things that I was told was that the commissioners have approved him coming to us, as he is now presenting now, without meeting the deadline for the submission. That was what I was told. So that was kind of the,
Go a little bit background. This was a gift to me by my spouse. Because it really doesn't make any difference in your decisions. He was giving it to me as a gift. He is in hospice. He's not going to be here, and it's now likely going to be not done before he passes away. So that is why we came to the commissioners, hoping at that point I could go ahead. But they said, okay, can you wait 2 weeks?
Mm-hmm.
So I think they were in favor of it, but they felt it was necessary to still come to you.
What did they actually ask you to do?
Just appear
Specifically.
and present it for you to get your opinions.
Yeah, I
Yes,
mean, but just so we understand on the process, would he need a building permit to do something like this? In other words, this review
I mean,
is
it's just
usually
like putting on a
triggered-
storm door.
It's usually triggered by somebody needing a building permit. And then there's, the staff looks at it and makes a decision whether it should have HARB approval or not. And again, in my opinion, it doesn't.
Yeah.
I just want to play it safe.
I mean, this is like
Maybe we should have a vote just to play it
I
safe.
may have changed my mind if I had known all this is going to happen.
I mean, this is like putting on a storm door or storm windows
Well,
on the inside of the house. It's
I can
exactly what
see,
you're doing.
if you go down, what is Morse Avenue, not North Wayne, when you go turn on South Wayne Avenue and there's, to get to the
He
Acme,
doesn't have to report. You don't have to.
that's Morse, is it Morse Road?
Windermere?
No, Morse Road, I'm talking about Acme off of Conestoga, and then it goes,
Oh, that way, okay.
okay. That street has a lot of porches like that, and they built in rooms with one small window. Now, that's what you're trying to prevent. That's not what I'm doing at all. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, I definitely-
I think you know, there's many of them
I
here.
think we've looked at enclosed
And
porches.
I'm not doing that.
We're-
And that's what is, I think that's
we looked at
why
it. You're right.
it
No,
was
that makes
brought up.
sense, because the enclosure
And
technique.
they use it as a room, a separate room, and it's quite ugly. It is quite ugly from the street.
I agree with George. You don't come in within the purview of the ordinance.
Now,
Very
I think
simple.
if the board has, in their minds, thought that you have to get approval from us, I'm going to I'm going to make a motion that we approve, that it's not an application, but we approve this project in context with what we've been asked to do by the Board of
Yeah, it
Commissioners.
makes sense.
Okay. I second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, so if the board asks you, the HARB board has approved it.
Okay.
Again, I would just see what kind of colors they have for that aluminum, because the aluminum will stand out. But if you get, like, they have bronze, they have black, they've got brown, different things, check what looks best. It doesn't cost that much more. It's only a few, very minimal.
Now, you may have to, since this is a weird procedure, it's a weird procedure we're going through here. To get it officially approved, you may have to still fill out that one-page application and,
think so.
no?
He doesn't come within our
don't think
purview.
so.
He doesn't have to be.
Well, that's,
The
okay,
ordinance doesn't require it.
We're just doing what the board has asked us to do.
Right.
okay. Then I'm just looking, we've never had this
I
happen,
think,
so.
I think they're just basically playing it safe because they're not sure how to go about, yeah, so that's
Thank you.
normal.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, good luck with it.
We don't have any public left. We have old business. The only old business I have, just a quick mention, is the Villa Stratford. And I think, whatever's going to happen is going to happen there. It was not in an historic district, so it didn't come before us, but we knew about it. It's being developed, and in the end, it looks like it's going to be torn down. We've been talking about getting specific site, targeting specific sites to go beyond those three districts, and I think this is a great example of that being something. Now, we may not have had any effect whatsoever, but What it does do is it makes people aware that there's some resource out there that might be worth saving, in our opinion, maybe. But it gets information to people, and they can make their own judgment and either yell that they want it or yell if they don't want it, but at least it gets it out there. And it wasn't before public meeting in the Board of Commissioners and planning and it did all the things it's supposed to do, and nobody made a big stink about it. They all wanted to see it saved, but everybody looked at it and said, well, it's, it's in horrible shape. I went through it. I have my opinion on whether it's savable or not. But I think the benefit of us being involved in that would have been just to get awareness out there and talk about unknowns that people don't know about, what its history is and what its significance is and what you can do and can't do with it, and some of the benefits of having an older building on a site like that. So I think it's probably something that we need to bring to the forefront. I don't know how it works. I know Beverly, you've been working on it. A few other people have been working on it. And, the way it worked out is that, the immediate ownership around that property had all of their say,
Yeah.
and nobody else did. Now, they're allowed to have their say, and they're allowed to get what they worked the deal on. That's fine. I'm not saying anything's wrong with that, but I think it probably, if we had been able to make other people aware, there might have been some other discussion.
No, I think
And
you're right.
because I came in really late to the discussion, and the guy was already, he was like, I'm done, I'm over, I got to get this done. So he didn't want to talk about anything
too late.
else.
No.
So,
you're right.
early on, if that's the case, we get in there early, there may be a difference in that outcome. So
I think it's a good point.
that's the only thing I have to say about that. You're aware of that one, right?
I was just made aware.
Okay, good, okay. All right, public comment.
Seeing none.
The guy in the back.
Okay. I move that we adjourn. Second?
Second.
Okay, we're adjourned.